Hi everybody, it's John from Lake Erie Chestnuts. Have you always wanted to start your own chestnut orchard? Well, my channel follows along with that, and we sprinkle in a little bit of hunting and other adventures along with it, with food plot management and so forth. But if you've always wanted to start your own chestnut orchard, here are 5 things you can do starting right now to get your orchard going next spring. Number 1, you've got to get some chestnuts. If you want to grow them from seed, that's great. If you want to grow yours from seed and say, hey, I took this from seed clear to an orchard like we've done here in Northwest Pennsylvania, you've got to buy your seeds right now. You can't buy them next spring. Occasionally you can find some people buying some cold stratified nuts ready for next spring to sprout, but usually you're out of luck if you wait till next spring. And of course, that's when you're interested in planting. It's spring. So if you're watching this in the spring, you may have to buy some seedling trees, or if you want to buy the seedling trees, well, that's a different route that you can do, and you can do that next spring. But if you want to grow them from seed, you can buy seed right now. There are different sellers. One of them that I purchased from is Chestnut Ridge of Pike County. All of their trees were purchased and grown as Dunstans. That's Chinese with a little bit of American sprinkled in. That's a brand name Dunstan. These are all seeds from trees that they bought from the Dunstan nursery that's out of Florida. And those should do well in most of northeast and kind of mid-central states on the East Coast. So that's one place you can go, Chestnut Ridge of Pike County. Their shop should be opening within the next week. This is mid-October. They usually open it in late October. Route 9 Cooperative in Ohio also has nuts for sale. There's other sellers that you can look locally on your Facebook Marketplace. You can, and you know that those will grow there in your area since you're buying them locally. You can also buy on eBay. Just be really careful of buying eBay nuts. You see all sorts of things on there. It may be better to reach out and see if anyone has experience with those sellers on what nuts you're getting from them. A lot of them will be billed as American, and they'll be clearly Chinese or Japanese or European. Those are all ways that you can get nuts, because then you've got to cold stratify them. I have plenty of videos on that. I'll post one right here, and you can see how to cold stratify the process of getting that nut ready to grow next spring, going into the refrigerator, putting out that initial root, and then sprouting them next spring. And then you can look at videos here on how to grow those seeds next spring. Tip number 2, you've got to protect those seedling trees when you put them in the ground, whether you're starting them on your own as seeds or if you're buying seedling trees. If you just plant them out there and forget about them, they're going to die. Wildlife's going to eat them. Voles are going to eat the roots. Lots of bad things are going to happen to your trees. So you got to protect them. If you've watched my most recent video, I have come down on the side of preferring fencing over tubes, although both have their pluses and minuses. If you want to buy tubes, that's a great Christmas present you can ask for. If you want to buy fencing, that's a good Christmas present you can ask Mama for. If you're buying the fencing, I buy 2-inch by 4-inch, 2-inch wide by 4-inch welded wire fencing. I buy 4 foot. You can buy 5 or 6 foot and really protect them from deer browsing. And I cut them in 36-inch lengths to get me about a 12-inch circle. And I use a treated pine stake, but you can use 1/2-inch rebar that you can buy. If you go my local True Value hardware store, will cut it for free. If you buy a 20-foot section, they cut it into 5-foot sections. And the wire fencing has very little wind resistance. So if you do one 5-foot rebar, bang it into the ground 1 foot, so you have 4 foot up, nothing will blow that fencing over. And now you've protected your trees. And if you buy that stuff now in the winter, you can be cutting the fence up. If you buy 100 foot of fencing, you can cut, about 33 3-foot sections out of that, and you'll have 33 tree protection things for about $100 and some of your time, plus the stake. The tubes, you'll be paying about $5-6 as well. They're a lot easier. You buy them, they come ready to go. So there's debate on which tube is better. I use Tree Pro tubes out of Indiana. I've used Plantra before, although their cost became prohibitive to me very early. So that's tip number 2. Get something to protect your trees. Number 3, you can start sketching out your planting site. What are you planting them for? Are you planting them to have an orchard to produce and maybe sell someday? Or are you trying to produce some luscious early archery, mid archery treats for those deer and wildlife that you may be pursuing? And where exactly do you want to put those? You can start sketching that out so that you have a plan for those trees, because the last thing you want to do is have a bunch of trees and no plan. So sketch out a plan for those trees. We use a 30 by 30 foot spacing, sometimes 15 by 15 foot, as we explained recently. If you want to put those in strategic spots where you can get a bow and arrow and be within range, well, then you got to make sure that they get sun. Planting them in the middle of the woods is a long haul. They're going to be way stunted unless you have that canopy wide open. So get it sketched out, have a plan for those trees once you've got them sprouted. Number 4, we've already kind of alluded to it in our tree protection portion there, but you got to get stakes. So you can use treated pine stakes, you can use bamboo stakes, you can use 5-foot sections of plastic electrical conduit, you can use rebar. You got to come up with a plan. I have different pluses and minuses on those staking plans, but come up with a plan that'll work. All of them will work. If you're going to use tubes, you probably need to use a treated pine stake or a rebar stake, or if it's like planter and it comes with a fiberglass stake, use those. I would argue against the plastic electrical conduit. It just fills with water. It seems to split. It seems like they don't hold, and they heave more if you have heavy freezes like we do here. So that's tip number 4. You got to have something to stake your tree protection to. You've stayed till tip number 5, and I appreciate you staying with me. If you can give me a thumbs up, I appreciate it. What's tip number 5? Subscribe to this channel. We do lots of tips through the year, and it kind of is right now relevant stuff for growing chestnuts, and we talk about food plots, deer hunting, and kind of just general outdoorsy stuff. But it will prod you to, hey, it's time. Sangle's checking out his chestnuts in the fridge, making sure there's no mold. Oh, he's starting to pot them up. He's planting outside. And it's kind of something you can follow along, and we can all do this together. So tip number 5, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Give me the thumbs up, and we will see you on the next video. Remember, if you're not growing, you're dying.